man, it's Christmas for Cleveland Browns fans. Unbelievable. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Steve Palazzolo, his show, Check the Mic. Find it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We'll call him an NFL insider, NFL draft insider today also. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. The show is powered by your next video wall. By Sound and Communications. If you need a video wall for your lobby, your church, your school, your business, your next video wall is powered by soundcomav.com. Sound and Communications. Steve Palazzolo, is it like Christmas to you today?
Oh, yeah, I love it. Finally, we get to unwrap the first-round presents tonight. So I'm ready.
All right. So we'll go 1-2, and then I'm going to get into what we've been talking about, Dart and all those guys. So are you confident that it's Cam Ward, number 1 to the Titans, and Travis Hunter, number 2 off the board?
Yeah, definitely. I think, definitely the Cam Ward part to the Titans. I'm pretty confident that it's Travis Hunter to the Browns. I did think Cleveland might consider Abdul Carter there to pair him with Myles Garrett, but they're gonna go with a guy that could be generational, a guy that trying to do something we haven't seen, at least in a long time, trying to play two ways and having two-way value. So I think it's Travis Hunter, number 2, and then probably Abdul Carter, number 3 to the Giants.
Okay, so we're at number 3. Patriots, Vrabel. What direction do you think that Vrabel and the Patriots go?
I think if Abdul Carter fell for some reason, they would take him, but I think it's going to be Will Campbell from LSU. I think they'll just take the tackle. And, maybe they have an Armand Membu graded higher or Kelvin Banks graded higher. I don't think that's the case, though. I think it'll be Campbell. So I think that the top 4 is going to be unexciting. And then the Jags, who knows what they're going to do at 5. That's going to be the curveball.
Do you believe that Pete Carroll, if Genty is there, that he'll take him at 6?
I thought that would be a fit. I mean, I think if you're looking at the Raiders at 6 and then definitely the Bears at 10, I think it's difficult. I mean, John Spytek is the new general manager there. I think they're generally pretty good at trying to build through the trenches and seeing how poorly the Raiders ran the ball last year. You can't just stick a running back in there. You have to build it up through the offensive line. So I think they might do the unexciting. Let's just take a lineman and the flashy Ashton Genty falls a few more picks.
Okay. All right. Do you have? Well, let's get into the quarterbacks outside of Cam Ward. When's the next time you think a quarterback could be picked, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart or someone else, Steve?
So I know there's from Saints beat reporters that they're not taking a QB at 9. I'm buying into that they're not, that they're going to go some sort of trench player, either side of the line of scrimmage at 9. I think that then puts the Steelers at play at pick 21. I think that's Pittsburgh. If they loved one of these quarterbacks, if they weren't expecting to get Shedeur and now they have an opportunity to get him and they like him, they're the team at 21. The only wild cards in here are, a team like the Seahawks, who are only really tied to Sam Darnold for 1 year, a team like the Rams, who, getting to the end of Matthew Stafford's tenure, if they start looking for the developmental guy. But then it becomes, okay, Browns and Giants still have a massive long-term QB need. Are they going to trade back into the first? So I think that's where I think a lot of the drama will be tonight, is in the right around 15 leading up to the Steelers, and if a team's going to try to trade back up to grab one of those QBs.
Okay, so if you had to bet on it, though, like you had to put some money, a few $100 on it, how many QBs go in round 1, Steve P?
I'll say 2.
Damn.
I don't know who it's either Shedeur. I mean, I feel stronger about maybe Dart goes ahead of him now, but I'm a sucker for all the rumors as they come out. I just buy into.
Aren't they great?
Yeah, that's where it's trending. right now. I always forget to go back and think, hey, what were all the rumors and how did they influence me positively or negatively? What was right, what wasn't?
Okay, so, but it sounds like if you were laying money on it, you think that Shedeur or Dart go in the 20s.
Yeah, I'd say one of them goes in the 20s. The other one goes maybe high second round. The other wild card's Tyler Shough from Louisville.
Yeah,
where there's so many people saying he's not getting out of the top 40. So, and so that's what the challenging part here is. There are 32 different boards, 32 different evaluations.
That's right.
And supposedly, I think Schefter or somebody put that Shough is the number one QB on multiple boards. That means over Cam Ward, or it's implying over Cam Ward. So again, the NFL is going to be all over the place on these guys. So trying to predict how they're going to act is it's fun, but certainly challenging to absolutely nail it.
Well, do you believe that Schefter actually knows that, or he's just throwing that out? Look, I recognize Schefter does a lot of amazing things, breaking, guys moving around and so on. And I know he works hard, so I'm not here to throw him under the bus. But do you believe that he is actually talking to people, that enough people, or do you think he's just throwing that out because he taught somebody at the bar 3 weeks ago?
I mean, I don't know. If I was a GM or assistant GM, I would lie quite a bit and talk up the players.
Absolutely.
I would be pretty bad.
Like college football recruiting, right? I mean,
I'm an honest college football recruiter.
I love it. Steve Palazzolo, NFL Insider, his show, Check the Mic. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, brought to you by Bud Light and Wings at Martin's in Livingston later today. We got the NFL draft tonight. It's in Green Bay. What do you think about it? Do you think it's cool that it's in Lambeau and Green Bay, Steve P? Yeah,
I think so. I think it's fine. I mean, I've never been to a draft. I always cover it remotely, so I don't really have strong feelings either way. If you followed my Twitter timeline, though, I do go back and watch old drafts from like 1999 and 2000, and that old New York City scene was kind of fun with all the fans in there. Like, that was a fun old school scene that they used to have. But I think the NFL does a nice job spreading it around and going. I hope they come to Cincinnati because they go to all these cities that aren't going to get Super Bowls. I think it's a good way of spreading things around the league.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I like it. I think it's going to be a fun. Do you ever watch Kyle Brandt or Peter Schrager or any of those guys? I mean, I know you're so into it and so entrenched. You may have your people, plus you do an NFL show every day and everything else that y'all do. But do you ever watch any of these guys?
Not regularly, just because I try not to be influenced by other NFL people and opinions. I've been on their show before, and I think I've seen some of the one-off stuff that Kyle does, the produce things. I mean, he's pretty sharp. So I like all those guys. They're great. I try not to get influenced by other people's NFL opinions.
Okay. Steve Palazzolo, he had the podcast of the year last year. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show. Okay, so when do you think someone could trade out of their pick? When do you think that could happen?
It's another tough one to predict because I don't, could be 5 with Jacksonville if someone really wanted to come get Ashton Genty. The problem is you're running out of people that need to get traded up for, right? There's only a couple blue chip players. Maybe if someone loves Mason Graham from Michigan, they try to trade up to get him at 6 or 7 if he falls. So I think the Browns and Giants will make their picks. The Patriots could be a spot if someone wants to come up and get, maybe it's Mason Graham, or again, it's tough to say who the blue chip guy is. But I think it's probably from 4 to 8. I know the Panthers would love to trade down from 8. But again, it's usually for quarterbacks, and I don't think you have a trade-upable quarterback option there. So it has to be for someone loves one of these non-QBs. And the more you hear about this draft, and even just from executives, my evaluations and other people's evaluations, if there's not a massive difference between, say, player 7 and player 20 in this draft, you're going to hold on to your picks and not trade up for those players unless there's one that you have graded higher above the rest. And so There might be one or two of those, but I'm not anticipating a ton of trade up movement, maybe in the top 15 or so.
Who's a player that a team's going to reach for early?
I mean, the reach thing, I don't love that generally, but like a Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, if you're going to get wowed by his measurables, like you could see the graphics even from our own company, 3013, we'll put up a graphic that has his measurables next to Myles Garrett. And those are true, but it's very disingenuous, right? It's, you can't imply that they're the same player or even similar, or that Shamar Stewart can even get to Myles Garrett level. So he's a great athlete, had no production in the SEC or little production in the SEC. And that's the type of guy, not so much a reach, but if someone gets enthralled by the measurables, you could see Stewart going, in the teens, top, close to the top 10. And I think that would be a little risky given his production profile coming out of college.
Okay. Green Bay is, they haven't gotten in any trouble. They kind of do their own thing. They win all the time. People seem to just like them because it's the smallest market, but an unbelievable story. And they were the first powerhouse in the league. And then since 1991, since Reggie White and Brett Favre, Chimura, and all those guys, they've won for the last 35 years or something. So do you, just nice, good people. Do you expect them to boo Roger Goodell tonight?
Sorry, what was the last part? Expect them to what?
Do you expect the crowd to boo Roger Goodell tonight?
Oh, that's a great question. No. They'll do the Midwest nice half applause.
Okay. I agree with you because there's a lot of
kind of respectful.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of similarities between people in the Midwest and people down here in the Sun Belt and the South. And so I don't think, you may have some like real light boos, but nothing like when the draft's in the Northeast or
no,
something.
Not the Northeast. Yeah. They hate everybody, leadership, they would boo the Pope, whoever.
Right. Okay.
Santa Claus.
All right, Steve.
That's my people.
Oh yeah. You're from New England.
Yeah. We hate everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that's what I talked about earlier. I grew up on sports talk radio in the 90s and what we could get. Now, Rome was out in LA, so he wasn't a Northeast guy, but the Northeast guys that you got, like that was angry sports talk radio. Did you grow up? Yeah. I mean, you grew up on angry sports talk radio, right?
Boston sports radio, in my teenage years, in my early 20s, they had, right before they won the World Series in 2004. So every year it was like, the Sox are ruining my summer again. And then my all-time favorite was the 2007 Patriots. They're undefeated, and people would call in complaining about, the punter, the punter just can't get the coffin corner going,
Oh my gosh.
They had nothing to complain about because the Patriots were beating everybody by 30, so they'd call up and be like, the punter's average is down. We need a new punter, Great. You always find something to complain about.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, you're winning at that time every game or 90% of the time. And you think it's going to last forever, and it's not. And Boston people were still finding something to complain about when they lived in the playoffs, lived with home playoff games, and went to however many Super Bowls. That's great. Who was your favorite? What was your favorite show on Boston Sports Talk Radio in high school and college?
The Big Show, it was called. A guy named Glenn Ordway who used to call Celtics games, but it was him and it was a rotating group of guests, and it was amazing. I would get out of high school at 2. They would start at 2. They would do a whole commercial-free 30-minute opening, and then their favorite. Then at 6 o'clock to finish it, they would do a thing called the Whiner Line, where everybody would call in throughout the show and give their complaints, and that became massive. Like they started to get legitimate comedians, doing impersonations and stuff. So it was must listen, 5:45 for 15 minutes every night. So they did a great job, and they were massive in the late 90s and into the early 2000s.
Are they still on?
No, that radio is. They kept messing with the group and tried too many things, and felt there was finally a competitor in the space, and they kind of took over. There was only one station for a while, but there was a competitor that kind of overtook them over the last 10 to 15 years.
Okay, all right, fair. Yeah, I could get Jim Litke and Jay Mariotti out of Chicago here in the 90s. Yeah. I could get Rome, Papa Joe Chevalier. I don't know if you remember him. JT the Brick.
JT, yeah.
Yeah, and there was one, I'll have to, and then Dan Patrick and Dibble partnered in the late 90s. And I was like, this is some of the best sports talk radio I've ever heard in my life. I thought that they were a damn good team. Do you remember when they were on radio, Steve?
Who was that, you say?
Dan Patrick and Rob Dibble?
Yeah. Yeah, I never got it. Like, that were probably ESPN radio.
Yeah.
We never had those in Boston. It was all the local.
Gotcha.
Like, they never even brought ESPN there. But sometimes they would take over like late night or whatever. But yeah, Dan's made a great career post Sports Center.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Steve Palazzolo on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. All right, Walter Nolan. Okay, defensive lineman. I knew I had another one that I wanted to ask about. Ole Miss could have 3 guys go in the first round, but Jackson Dart could go in the first round, and I think Steve's going to say this, but I think Walter Nolan is going in the first round. Give me a couple of spots that you think Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman out of Ole Miss, could go.
Yeah, so there were some late rumblings that he could go close to the top 10. I think the Niners at 11 would be a potential spot. The Cincinnati Bengals at 17. That's been a very, very common position there because they just need interior pass rush generally, or interior disruption at all. But I think the Niners have such a massive defensive line need. Certainly the Bengals at 17, and really a lot of teams in the teens, with Arizona at 16. I mean, they all need defensive line help all up and down. Atlanta at 15. They all need help up front, and it's a matter of, do you want to choose an edge rusher or do you want one of those interior defensive linemen? I think Nolan's one of 3 or 4, probably 3 defensive tackles that can go in the first, maybe 4, depending on what happens with Oregon's Derek Harmon. But yeah, I think Nolan in the top 15 makes a lot of sense, and there's a bunch of teams that could take him.
What do you like about his game?
He's just really disruptive, right? I mean, there's some players in this draft who are just good against the run, or guys who are just pass rush specialists. I think he could do it all. I think he's got the 5-star pedigree, shows up as far as power, as far as quickness, just overall 3-down disruption. And so I think he's been really productive across a couple different spots, and I think that'll translate.
Okay. Let's see. What is more likely to happen? I know you just walked us through it. As far as elite players, there's not many of them to go up and go get, and it's not a good quarterback class. So there's not a lot of teams that are going to try to jump over each other to grab a dude or two, especially if once Cam Ward from Miami Hurricanes goes off the board to the Titans at number 1. So what's more likely for Steve Palazzolo? That there'll be some movement in the top 10, maybe the Panthers or someone can actually jump up and go get whoever it is they want, or a team trades into the 20s later tonight to maybe grab a quarterback or a player.
Yeah, I think it's the trade into the 20s. I think the Giants and the Browns are desperate at quarterback. The Saints could be desperate. So that's the spot. The Browns have the first pick at 33 in the second round. The Giants have the second pick, and the Saints are sitting there right around 40. And so if they're all jockeying for position for quarterbacks, I think that happens late tonight. I think that happens late night. They try to trade back into the first. And then again, it's a matter of, do you like Dart? Do you like Sanders? Do you like Tyler Shuck? Do you like Jalen Milroe? Each team's going to have their own evaluation, but if they feel like they have to go get somebody, I think that happens late tonight. Teams trying to trade up into the 20s for their QB. Would it shock
or surprise you? Or you're like, no, Bo, because what you said 10 minutes ago, there's 32 different boards, 32 different opinions on who they like and so on. Would it shock or surprise you that if Jalen Milroe went in the first round?
It would surprise me. Yeah. I mean, look, Michael Penix went 8 to the team that just paid the biggest free agent QB contract in the offseason last year. So nothing really, really surprises you. But I would be surprised. I mean, that would be one of the surprises of the night, in my opinion, is Milroe going round 1. I think he's more of a day 2 type of player, developmental option. But yeah, so it would surprise me if he went round 1 for sure.
Okay. But it would not shock or surprise you, Shedeur or Dart?
Not as much. But, I guess the other question is, if they both fell out of the first round, is that surprising? And to me,
okay,
not.
Well, so which one for you?
No, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if they fell out of the first round either.
Okay.
And then, the Browns and the Giants just kind of make their picks tomorrow night. But I think they'll make a move. I think they'll try to trade up and get somebody. I hope so. We're all rooting for the drama. We're all rooting for the crazy. And it always delivers. It's the draft, But I could see if they end up falling, and a lot of the talk, there's always this cycle of, what if quarterbacks go 1, 2, and 3, right? Coming out of the combine, I saw people have Shedeur 2 and Dart 3. And now it's just like, move that back around. And would that be that shocking if Shedeur goes late first, early second, Dart does something similar? I don't think that's terribly shocking.
Judkins, could you see Quinshon Judkins going in the first round?
I don't. I think I had him closer to running back 5 or 6, I think, in this class. I kind of like Travion Henderson, his teammate, better than him. I mean, I'm a Cam Scatteraboo guy from Arizona State, but he's not going to go as high as I love him. But I think it'll be tough for Judkins to get over a guy. I think the NFL will have a Marion Hampton higher from UNC and Travion Henderson, his teammate, higher, just because of the big playability that Henderson brings to the table. Mm-hmm. So I think Judkins is more of a day 2 type of player.
All right, I got 1 minute. Cam Scatteraboo, where do you have him projected to go?
I mean, he probably goes third round or later. Ran a 4.65, not terribly explosive, but man, I just want that dude on my team. Mm-hmm. He's carrying Arizona State. I mean, he's just one of those really good football players, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. I just think he's a really good running back. It's a deep running back class, so I think you can get him third round or later. But again, I think a team's going to be thrilled to have Scatteraboo once they draft him.
All right, one more real quick. What are my Cowboys going to do at 12?
Teteroa McMillan is my final answer, and I'd rather McMillan over Matthew Golden. So see what happens. But I think they go McMillan if he's there, and you're going to feel pretty good about him playing next to CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, I hope they do that. I would love for them to draft McMillan and get another wide receiver. So you like him, Steve P?
Oh yeah, I like him. I mean, I don't know if I want to take him top 5, but I think his size, ball skills, I think he just does everything well at receiver. Even if he's not terribly twitchy or explosive, but he's going to get open, make plays in traffic, and I think he'll be a great complement to a guy like CeeDee Lamb.
All right, how much time do I have? Oh, I'm out. All right, Steve P, we'll talk next week. Thanks, buddy.
All right. Happy draft. We'll talk to you.
All right, man. And that was brought to you by Ice Cold Bud Light and Wings at Martin's in Livingston. We're live in the Bank Plus studio.